Opposed, if any, that is carried. Do we have anybody with a conflict of interest with anything? Okay, don't see any hands coming up. The first item then is the consent agenda. There are 5 items on the consent agenda. Is there anything there that anybody would like pulled or dealt with separately, or maybe a little more explanation as to what it is? Okay, I don't see any hands going up for that either. So a motion that we accept the consent agenda would be in order. Councillor Murray and Councillor Matheson. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, we do not have a delegation tonight that I'm aware of. So the first item under reports then is the chief building official. So Bob McLean, you're on here, so I'll just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Building permit summary for the month. We had 21 building permits issued, 2 zoning certificates, and just over $4.6 million in construction value. Permits are listed.
Okay, any question with any of the permits that were listed there? Okay. Moving on then, Bob, the third quarter permit comparison.
Yes, third quarter permit comparison for the last 4 years is posted. Our permit numbers are consistent with the last years. Construction value is up and residential starts is up.
Okay. Any questions for Bob on that? Construction values will be up largely due to the increase in building supplies, I assume, and other increase in costs, I guess I should say.
Yes, those construction costs have leveled off considerably, but they're still higher than normal from last year.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Bob at this time when we have him here? All right. Don't see anything. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Moving on, the next item is operations manager. And Mike, there we go. The floor is yours.
Good evening. I have 3 brief reports. The first one is I'm seeking council approval to pre-budget approval for a tandem dump truck for 2022, most likely to be received 2023, and that is to participate with Perth County in a group and a joint tender along with Perth East.
There we go. Okay. I got to back up one step here, Mike. Apparently we didn't approve Bob's report. So we need a mover and seconder to accept Bob's report. That's my one mistake for tonight. So Councillor Bell and Councillor Murray, or Councillor Rose, sorry. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, now, Mike, sorry. Your recommendation there is that we approve the purchase of a 2022 tandem dump truck, estimated cost at $310,000, including HST, and we're tendering it with the county. Did I miss anything?
No, that's
okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So do we have a mover and seconder, or do you have anybody has any questions? We'll get it on the floor. Moved by Councillor Tarkowski and seconded by Deputy Mayor Wright. Any questions with regards to that? We approved the same motion at the county the last time we met, being 2 weeks ago, I guess this Thursday. So it kind of all goes together. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further questions, all those in favor? That is carried. Okay, next item then, Mike.
The next report is my monthly October operations report. It's pretty straightforward. We're completing some health and safety. You can see the ongoing and completed projects that were completed and are anticipating on doing. Nelson Street, we've got the curb in, and hopefully we'll be fine grading it and getting some base asphalt on that. Also, Structure 03, which is the St. Andrew Street Bridge, is on schedule. And we have experienced quite a few delays on the Ontario Road paving. And that is due to, we are still waiting for Ontario 1 locates, which we're on the 7th week for that process. So we hope to hear back from Ontario 1 call, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay. So any particular reason why they're dragging their feet?
They're behind on everything. They only have one person for this region, and it's actually his region has expanded from what I've been told, and they're just short-staffed. But legally, they're supposed to be able to respond and turn around locates in 5 business days, and we're on our 7th week.
Right. Okay. Okay. All right. Recommendation then is that we accept the operations October report for information. We'll get a mover and seconder, and then I'll ask if there's any further questions. So moved by Councillor Harold and seconded by Councillor Murray. Any questions with anything that Mike had in his report there? All right. All those in favor? That is carried. All right. And you said you had one more item.
Yeah, and the final report is regarding, as it was brought forward in, I believe, the September's meeting. It was regarding rainbow crosswalks. The report is quite detailed, and I'm willing to and able to answer any questions that you may have regarding rainbow crosswalks.
Okay, we'll do the same thing this time again. We'll the recommendation is that we receive the rainbow crosswalk report for information, and we'll get a mover and second for that, and then I'll ask if there's any further questions or comments at that time. So do we have a mover and seconder? Councillor Rose, thank you, and Councillor Marshall. Okay, any questions or comments with regards to that report? Yes, Councillor Bell.
Okay, sorry, I was just reading it through, and you did answer my one question, was if legal department and such are recommending we don't, how is it that other municipalities are? But I see that you did answer that question. Where would you suggest we put it in West Perth then? For the lower volume?
I personally wouldn't choose to do it. However, if council wishes to do it, I'll support wherever you choose to do it. I think there's better and other options that we could do.
Like?
We have banners. We could, for the month of the Pride celebration or whatever, we could place banners in the downtown core. I just personally feel that rainbow crosswalking walks are fairly expensive, but they're also fairly vandalized also, and also it exposes us to a large liability. And if I was ever in a deposition, I would have no grounds to stand on, which exposes us considerably.
Okay, anybody else? Don't see anybody else's hands going up. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Oh, Councillor Murray.
Sorry, I was just thinking about what Mike said. So do we have banners, or is that something we would have to initiate the purchase of now?
We would have to initiate the purchase of it. CIO Jeff Rick deals with a company to purchase our Canada banners along with the West Perth banners, and I'm pretty sure that they have also the rainbow banners also available to him.
Okay, thank you.
We also have the flag, and our policy for the flag is if requested, we will fly it, and we were requested, I believe, 2 years ago, and we had it up, and it wasn't requested this past year. So that's maybe something to keep in mind as well. And it is at the information center at the intersection of the two highways. Any other questions on that? Oh, Councillor Bell again, sorry.
Yeah. I guess I'm just struggling with the increased risk and liability. What risk and liability would we have painting it? Because you have to have it painted with special paint. That's not slippery. So what is the increased risk and liability that would fall?
So the increased risk and liability is does it meet the standards or the guidelines under the Ontario Traffic Manual or the Transportation Association of Canada's guidelines? So it doesn't meet guidelines or specifications. Also, with the paint being solid and throughout, when it does become wet, it does become quite slippery, no matter what material of paint that we do use, whether it's cold plastics, thermoplastics, or just the regular VOC paints.
So the risk and liability then is somebody slipping and falling because of the paint, right? That's basically the end of it. Like that's,
yeah, yes.
so
That and our car pedestrian incident.
So if there's a car, is there a car and pedestrian incident on a regular crosswalk? We're not liable. On a crosswalk that's painted white that says it's a crosswalk, we're not liable. We're only liable if it's painted rainbow colored. Like just
no,
so
we
I
could still
understand.
potentially be that 1% liable.
Right. So,
But here we
but
would
what
be
changes?
100% liable.
And so that's what the other municipalities and towns and cities have all chosen to do, is to become 100% liable for their crosswalks.
They've assumed that risk, yes.
The other thing I think you have to be cognizant of, Councillor Bell, is where they are. And I don't know where they all are either, but we're talking a provincial highway here and a connecting link.
So, and that was my question, my first question. If we can't do it on the highway or connecting link, where else in the West Perth could we potentially look at putting one?
As
That
I
was my
mentioned
first
before,
question.
Councillor Bell,
You say nowhere.
You could place it anywhere. That's a council decision.
Yeah. That was going to be that was actually what I was getting at. I was okay with the fact that it wouldn't necessarily be downtown or on a provincial highway. I just wondered if there was another area that anybody else would like to see it, or where else could we put one potentially?
So if I
Go
may,
ahead,
Mayor
go ahead,
McKenzie,
Jeff.
I'm just going to offer that, the staff recommendations pretty clear that we're not recommending the crossings for the reasons that are outlined in the recommendation. And I think Mike's articulated fairly clearly that I think it's book 5, Mike, while our crossings in the downtown meet the traffic code doesn't include rainbow crossings at this time, and that we feel exposes us. And I guess that is something to suggest. I want to pick up on Mike's suggestion that perhaps if council would like us to mock up a couple of banners, my suggestion would be that we put them up and we run them for the season that we run our regular set of banners. We currently, I should know these numbers, I believe it's 8 and 7. We have currently in the downtown, we have 8 Canada banners, 7 West Perth banners that are the West Perth herons. They're going to be around $200 or $300 a piece. We could order 2 rainbow banners and replace 2 of the West Perth herons and still incorporate the heron into them. And if council would be good with seeing a mock-up of that, that's probably a $500 budget that we could have those ordered and ready to go in for next June.
Okay. Councillor Trinkowski.
Through you, your worship, to support Mike Kramer's comments. Based on my own experiences in the professional engineering and construction world, judges and insurance companies are not very forgiving. When a party is found to be liable for a wrongdoing, then I'm not prepared to expose the municipality to that kind of risk. As I said, based on my own professional experience from the past, when you're found to be wrong, there's no excuses. You're wrong, and there's no escaping that potential liability. And as far as banners, from what I've heard from the public is that banners may be acceptable, but I would be concerned about putting them on the poles downtown. I think the veterans have earned the right to put have the banners posted downtown. I'm not sure if we open it up to one group, then other groups will want the banners up. That's what I'm hearing from the public. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, and I'm going to look to Dan here because the recommendation is that we just receive the crosswalk for information, the crosswalk report for information. The CAO has suggested that they could do mock-up banners. It was banners you were talking about, Jeff. And I guess we need to know if you want staff to go ahead and do that. And if so, we should probably have it as part of this motion, should we not? So, Councillor Bell?
I would make that motion.
Okay, so we can just add that. How are we going to do this now? We'll just add it to that motion, the original motion. So the motion would be that West Perth receives the Rainbow Crosswalk report for information, and that staff, help me out here, Dan or Jeff, that staff proceed with a mock-up simulation of a proposed banner for a council consideration.
And Walter, if I may,
sorry.
could you also add and brainstorm some locations, whether it's with council, a subcommittee, or
Sure.
amongst themselves, some possible locations for them as well?
Yep. So add that, Dan, as well, for a location, a sample mock-up and a possible location. Would you like to read that now before I call the vote?
Second edition, they're made it a lengthy, right, so that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth receives the Rainbow Crosswalk report as information, and that Council directs staff to prepare a Pride banner mock-up along with provide possible locations for a Pride crosswalk for Council's consideration.
Okay, and I just have to check with the mover and seconder, and I think it was Murray and was it Councillor Bell as well? Those were the two that moved and seconded. Are you okay?
Yep.
What I was suggesting, Walter, was possible locations for the banner, not possible locations for the crosswalk.
Okay, all right, for the banner. We'll amend that then. Okay, so it's okay with the mover and seconder. Okay, ready for the vote then? All those in favor of that motion? Okay, just keep your hands up here just so I can count. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's carried. All right. Anything else, Mike?
I have nothing else to report.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mike at this time on anything? All right, moving on. Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
All right, next up we have the Recreation and Facilities Manager, his report. So Darcy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor McKenzie and Council. My first report is the activity report. It outlines the capital projects that we have on the go right now, as well as some facility maintenance. We're really excited in the recreation portion. We've been getting some good numbers into our programs. We actually just wasn't in here yet, but we just filled up our pickleball program of 16 teams. And that was pretty exciting for us. We are going to do it in the hall because we can't use the school gym right now on a regular basis. They're still trying to figure out their protocols for vaccination and stuff. So we did move it into the hall on the community center. We're going to see how that goes, but we're excited. And as well as I mentioned in here, our cooking class, sold out with a wait list. So we were pretty excited about that. I will gladly take any questions.
Okay, any questions for Darcy on his report? Deputy Mayor Wright.
Hey, Darcy, when you did the Ketterson Park Pavilion, did you invite the user groups back? I've had a couple of them that were at all the first meetings say they've never been asked to come back to a meeting.
I tried to invite as many as I could that came from the former, as well as any of the presidents from the user groups that were there. There was some that never responded, but we tried to get as many as we could back.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
I guess I
All
should mention too that I wasn't able to put it in this report because it wasn't finalized yet, but the concession booth did open for its first day tonight. So I've been checking in and everything seems to be going well, but there will be a bit of a training week for everybody, but we do have the concession booth open tonight.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Darcy. Okay, the motion here, because I don't think we've taken the motion yet, is that the Council Municipality of West Perth receives the activity report for information. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Marshall and Councillor Murray. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right, and now you have another item here too, Darcy.
Yes, this is the Optimus Club Accessible Playground. This is much similar to the report I did a month ago. The Optimus Club has done a few more purchases, as well as we realized that one of the purchases never got brought back from reserve. So it's just doing some paperwork and getting everything cleaned up as far as a reserve. This is all Optimus Club donation money. It's not from the tax levy at all. It's just paying for their stuff out of their donation account.
Okay. Any questions on that? It's just a kind of a paper trail to account for what we've done. Okay, it's a fairly lengthy motion, but I'll read it here. That the municipality of West Perth authorizes the transfer of the 2021 donations received in the amount of $14,214.83 into the Lions Playground 2019 plus reserve, and that the Council Municipality of West Perth approves the capital project for various benches in the amount of $9,148.15 and to be funded from the Lions Playground 2019 plus reserve, and that the Council Municipality of West Perth approves the transfer of $5,354.26 for the lemon drop chair to be funded from the Lions Playground 2019 plus reserve, and those funds be returned to the 01-7200-0800 reserve, which is the pool. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose and Councillor Marshall. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Darcy. Okay, the next report then is from our treasurer, and Wendy, you're there front and center, so you just take it away. You're muted, Wendy. I'm sorry.
Well, let me start that again.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Mackenzie, and good evening, Council. So I have two reports. The first one is just more of a legislative requirement in bringing a report to Council to show the expenses that aren't part of the levy. And those items are the amortization, future post-employment benefits, and solid waste landfill closures. So for the estimated amortization costs for 2021, it's approximately $3.6 million. And then we don't have any post-employment benefit costs. So there's nothing to disclose there. And then for the landfill, it's anticipated to be $108,653 for those costs. So if you have any questions on the report, I'll gladly take them.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Wendy on that? Okay, I don't see anybody's hands going up, so I'll read the motion. that municipality of West Perth approves the following excluded expenses from the 2021 municipal budget as required by the Municipal Act. Amortization of tangible capital assets, future post-employment benefit expenses, and solid waste landfill closure and post-closure expenses. Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Matheson and Councillor Marshall. Okay, any questions? Last call. All right, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, and the next one then, Wendy?
So the next one is just the monthly budget to actual report, and nothing really to say there other than the school board payments were paid in the month of September and everything so far is looking favorable.
Okay. So there's nothing in particular that you want to point out or highlight to us at this time?
No, sorry.
It's all good. It's all
Yes,
good.
it's all looking good.
Okay. Recommendation is then that Municipality of West Perth accepts the West Perth consolidated statements as of September the 30th, 2021 report as information. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose and Councillor Harold. Last call for any questions, in case you missed something. Don't see any. Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us down to clerk, and Dan has a report here on roadside litter and illegal dumping. So Dan?
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Just before I begin, I just want to give credit to where credit's due. So Grace Bellamy is our co-op student from the University of Waterloo. She is the one who conducted a majority of the research in this report and also took a very good crack at drafting the report for council tonight. So I just wanted to publicly thank her in case she is watching. She did not want to face the music, so to speak, and present with council tonight. So I'm going to be doing that on her behalf. But anyways, before council, tonight is a report on the littering and dumping motion brought forward by Councillor Trzaskowski. What we've done is collected a bunch of information of what other municipalities are doing. Some of it will work, and we've made recommendations as such, and some of what's happening in this report likely will not work and maybe would work or be considered a sizable service level increase or have a notable cost. So we just wanted to bring this report for council so we can get a little bit of direction and guidance as to if we're providing the right solution in line with what was being thought, and then we will conduct a further report, and we can in our recommendation provide possible locations and hotspots as identified, mock-ups of the signs, look at some mock-ups of social if need be, and things along those lines for council's consideration at a future meeting.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So I will read the motion. We'll get it on the floor, and then if there's discussion, we'll go at that time. So the recommendation is that we direct administration to provide more information regarding the installation of no littering signs and garbage disposals in littering hotspots, and that the Council Municipality of West Perth directs administration to prepare social media campaigns to promote and educate users on the importance of not littering. So do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Trzaskowski and Councillor Marshall. Okay, now I'll open it up for discussion or comments. Councillor Tam.
Where are we at with surveillance cameras, Dan? Like I'm thinking parts and that sort of thing.
If Darcy's still here, he'd be best to answer, I think, unless Jeff has an update on that, but I know there are some being installed.
Darcy's here.
Yeah, so we do have two at the pool, 2 at the Lions Park Zoo, 2 at Ketterson, and 2 at around the arena. That's where we've so far put the surveillance cameras in. I guess the one thing I can say is it did stop the vandalism at those spots. They seemed to catch on to the cameras quick. The words got fast. It stopped it there, but it hasn't stopped them completely, as we actually had some vandalism on the trails the past couple weeks with spray paint and signs and stuff. So it has stopped it there, but unfortunately we can't have cameras everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I know we're not going to have them on side roads and everywhere that this takes place, but I was just thinking that that might help in some areas.
Okay, Councillor Trinkowski?
Through you, your worship, the, I guess, a couple things. The positioning or location of signage, it was brought to my attention that we should attempt to do something in cooperation with the different campgrounds and resort park operations within the municipality, such as the campground in Logan Ward on line 46, or there's other facilities in Fullerton and so forth. Also, if signage might be best positioned on strategic points, entry points into West Perth, we could sort those details out later. I guess the overall idea was just for everyone to show more respect for the cleanliness of our municipality, whether it's the rural roads, the downtown streets, or on our walking trails and so forth. And I want to say thank you to Dan and to Grace for putting this together. I know the DeBlock family that brought this to my attention are especially glad that our staff is responding to the concerns brought forward by the DeBlock children particularly. So that's I'm very happy to see that level of cooperation and collaboration between our citizens and our elected officials and our staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean. The other option that we have when we talk about social media and that, we also have that sign downtown, and we can, you know, when we cycle some of the information there, every once in a while, we could put up something, a symbol or some comment there with regards to littering as well. Anybody else have any comments at this time? Okay, I don't see any hands. So,
Walter?
Nicholas, go ahead.
Did you, Dan, or Grace come across any innovative ways to work with corporate residents of West Perth that when we walk along the roadside, we can see where the garbage is coming from? And so was there any other municipality doing anything innovative with the corporate producers of that with their logo on it, for example, thrown in the ditch with their logo on it? Is there any way to work with them to say, hey, how can we help together to alleviate that kind of problem?
I wouldn't say there's been anything innovative to that degree, or their discussions with the corporations that have their logos that are the ones being littered. I will say that I think one of the more interesting ones that we stumbled across was the Adopt a Road, if there was a way to push that, because that program's already established. It's not a municipality program, as the note says. Even the county website points to it. But I think if you could get corporate buy-in through a program like that, that would be a good way for them to get involved. So it's something we could keep an eye on. And if we're noting kind of a repeat product offense, by all means, we could make them aware through a friendly letter of the Adopt a Road program, if that's what you're along the lines of what you're thinking.
Hey, anybody else? I know one suggestion that I had, and this is just with regards to the trail. And of course, you can't do this in the wintertime, but it's not a problem as much in the wintertime. But if we had, and I know we have some garbage cans there now, but even a few more along that trail would maybe entice them to use them a bit more. I think, you know, depending on what they have, a coffee or whatever, and they're still drinking it when they pass the one, and it's empty before they get to the next one. So maybe even one in between halfway through or something like that might help. I don't know. But that was one that was suggested to me. Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor McKenzie. The only thing I would say or suggest is if we maybe look at some of your plugging, the idea of providing kits for folks to clean up. You know, it goes along well with our cleanup day in the spring, and I certainly have heard of and know, I've seen many people in town doing that out along the trails. So, you know, if we have that stuff available, that might go a long way to helping too. So.
Good. Okay, fair enough. Okay, anybody else? Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and we've had a good discussion. So all those in favor of that report? That is carried. Thank you. All right. The next item then is just correspondence. And it's just a letter from the Solicitor General with regarding the community safety and the well-being plan that we submitted. I believe maybe it was in June or the first part of July. It was a while ago anyways. Any comments on that at all? So the recommendation is that Council Municipality of West Perth accepts correspondence as information. I have a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Harold and Councillor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. So council reports, we have the Elma Logan Recreation Complex, the financials, and Councillor Trinkowski is our member on that committee. So Dean, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. We can see from the financials that there's going to be currently some kind of an operating deficit. How extreme or how much that deficit will be, we won't know until the end of the season. But I know going into the season, it was noted at the committee meeting last month that there was a significant loss of ice time users, and there's no obvious solution to rectify that situation at this point. So that's something of note that's worth mentioning to council here tonight. The reasons for the loss of those rental users is in part due to the new COVID admission requirements that took effect on September 22nd of last month. Some of it also stems back to North Perth's handling, or their method of handling with the COVID requirements last fall before the start of the fall and winter ice season, and that has resulted in the loss of customers that way, and those customers sought ice at other venues with less restrictive requirements placed on them by the other venues. And it would appear that this year those users have opted to not come back to the Moncton Arena and have opted to seek their ice time elsewhere. And it was also discussed at the committee meeting last month. I asked the question as to how much of the designated Ontario government COVID relief funding remained available to continue to pay for COVID related costs going forward. There wasn't a clear answer as to how much of that funding remained available. I'll stop there. I have more. I have some supplementary notes that I wanted to elaborate on, but I'll just stop there to see if anybody had some budget questions first.
Okay, any questions for Councillor Trinkowski with regards to the budget? Deputy Mayor Wright?
Just, this is the overall budget of the Alma Logan complex, including ball and that. When they break out just the ice surface, I assume we don't pay for the loss on the library or the daycare or the ball diamond. We're only a 40% partner in the arena portion, correct? That might be a question for the new treasurer.
Oh, I can try that, Your Worship, through you. The library and the daycare center are tenants. So whatever costs in operating those two facilities, whatever those costs are, that's completely independent of the budget for the arena and the park. So they're not to be, the library and the child care center are not to be confused with the operation of the budgeting of the arena and the park. They're separate entities.
That answer your question, Doug?
So do we pay for the loss and the expenses also on the park? I always thought we just owned part of the arena. Like if they put new ball lights in, I see here, are we, I don't know how to ask this question. Like we only take the loss on the arena ice pad, not the ballpark and the soccer fields and that, correct? We've only signed on for the arena portion. Or am I wrong?
I see, if you're stuck, Dean, I see Wendy is on, whether she can help you out or not.
Well, they put the West Perth, the portion that West Perth pays, they put it in the arena section of the budget. But as to whether or not we absorb the loss of anything other than the arena ice surface, perhaps Wendy could elaborate further on that.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Unfortunately, I don't know the agreement itself, but I can look into it and we can bring something back if you like, just so it's clear.
No, that would be fine, Wendy. It was my understanding, similar to Doug's, I think, that we were a percentage of what it cost to operate the arena. And that was how our commitment to that facility was arrived at. But it wouldn't hurt for you to look at it, and it would refresh our memories as well as bring you up to speed as to what's there. So, yeah. Any other questions for Dean on that? Okay, you had some further stuff you wanted to give us too, Dean?
Yes, thank you again through you, Your Worship. So on my supplementary notes that I included, that I drew up and have included for the agenda tonight, at our committee meeting last month, there was considerable discussion about 2022 capital projects. The first of them being the ball diamond lights and standards poles. The intention is to remove and replace the existing, and whether or not West Perth absorbs the profit or loss from the operation of the park part of the facility. I guess my thought is I'm on the committee to represent West Perth for all of the entire facility. So I mentioned the ball diamonds, the poles and the standards. There might be a possible opportunity for West Perth to partner with North Perth. If West Perth is considering, when we have our pre-budget discussions here coming up shortly, if we're considering tennis court lighting in the near future for next year, then there might be a possible opportunity to do a joint tender with North Perth, same fashion where Mike Kramer's tender for the dump truck is combined with the county tender as well. I'm just bringing that up as a possible opportunity for cooperation in the future, which would require additional discussions between the two municipalities. There was discussion of a dog park, the cost not yet determined. Moncton Lions Club, it sounded like they were entertaining the idea of sponsoring some of the costs for that idea, and community fundraising effort was also a possibility to pay for that. And a site selection process somewhere on the facility grounds was underway. Staff was undertaking that. Also for 2022, arena roof repairs. This is roof leaks on the original structure that was built in the late 80s, early 90s. There's ongoing work needed to diagnose the source of the leaks and remedy those. The costs are undetermined there. Pickup truck replacement. Again, that truck's used in part for the arena building as well as the rest of the park facility. The current truck's a 2007 model. Purchase of a new truck's being contemplated, cost not specified. But I'm just, and I wanted to get council's feedback on this. I wanted to suggest whether a good used truck could be purchased through government deals rather than buying a new truck, because the truck sits there, does more sitting than it does driving. So, and also because it does more sitting than driving, perhaps I wanted to suggest this purchase and installation of a temporary shelter to house this truck to keep it out of the weather, just to protect the longevity of the vehicle itself. And the last item that was discussed at length was the Guelph to Godrich Trail. It runs directly on the old CPR railway line directly behind the ballpark. And there was some discussion about adding items to accommodate the users of the trail, campsite, e-bike charging station, a bike repair station, providing public access to the washrooms and kitchen facilities at the park pavilion. So I just wanted to get council's feedback on those ideas, and I could relay your comments and feedback to the committee at large, because they're, North Perth is having their budget vision planning meeting November 7th. And that planning meeting will also consider the operations, the 2022 operations and budget for the Alma Logan facility. So I would be happy to get feedback from West Perth that I could relay towards the committee at North Perth.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Any questions for Dean on anything he mentioned? Perhaps when Wendy gets back to us on how the breakdown is on all the facilities back there, we'll have a better handle on who does what. Nothing else? Okay. Moving on then, we have the audited financial statements for the Mitchell and area mobility bus, and Councillor Rose, you're on that committee, I believe. So is there anything there you wanted to highlight?
I just wanted to say that we have a meeting next week. So if anyone has any questions, I can bring those questions forward at that time to that Villa board.
Right, okay, no. Any suggestions for Murray? Any questions with regards to the mobility bus? Don't see any, Murray. So I think you're good.
Okay.
Okay, the recommendation is then that the Council Municipality of West Perth accepts the reports from councillors as information. So do we have a mover and seconder for that, for those couple reports? Moved by Councillor Rose and seconded by Councillor Murray. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Those opposed? Still carried. All right. There was one hand that didn't go up, so I was just checking. Okay, moving on. We have bylaws, or a bylaw 75, and it is a bylaw. I'm just trying to bring it up here. Just bear with me for a second. Yes, it's a site plan agreement with Matt Cock Hardwood. And I don't know whether Bob has anything further to comment on this one. If Bob's still there, he could maybe add a little bit. Bob?
Yes, Council Mayor. The site plan agreement is the completion of the process. This was first brought before council early in the early winter, and Matt Cook purchased the property from Ontario Steel Solutions and has developed a hardwood mill and sawing system and processing. So he had to go under site plan agreement renewal to expand the building to his current needs. So we got his securities, entered, issued a building permit for the building addition, and this is the result of the application.
Okay. Any questions for Bob on that site plan agreement? Okay, looks good. I don't see any hands coming up. So the recommendation then is that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth gives first, second, and third and final reading to bylaw 75 this 18th day of October. And that is the bylaw to deal with the site plan agreement on Matt Cook Hardwood Incorporated. Mover and seconder for that? Councillor Marshall and Councillor Trinkowski. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, just a reminder of things coming up. The October the 26th is the closed special council meeting to deal with the asset management workshop. And then our next regular council meeting will be the 1st of November. And following that, the 15th of November as well. Are there any notices of motion? None that I'm aware of. Okay. Any other business at this time? Don't see anybody's hand going up. So we do have a closed session to deal with, I got to think here, proposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land by the corporation. So if there's nothing further, motion that we proceed into closed session at 7:56 would be in order. Moved by Councillor Vink and seconded by Councillor Tam. All those in favor? That is carried. So we're going to proceed into closed session. Sticking on my pages here. Okay. All right. So the next item then is our confirmatory bylaw. And it's bylaw number 76, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Perth be read a first, second, and third time. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Rose and Councillor Vink, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And finally, the last motion of the night, that the Council of the Municipality of West Perth adjourn the council meeting at 9:01. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Bell and Councillor, saw another hand up there, Councillor Murray. Okay, all those in favor? That is also carried. So we are adjourned. Good. Thank you.